Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ecom Enterprises YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be covering the AWS B2B data interchange, how to use the JSONata to do the mapping. In this case, we're going to be using an EDIX12A50, converting it to JSON data, and we're going to be using the JSON sample for Soho sales order import. So this is a series of videos where we're going to be covering multiple facets of AWS B2B data interchange. So stay tuned for part 2 and the later parts as well. So we're going to covering we're going to talk a little bit about what is JSON, what is JSONata, how to use JSONata, do some basic mapping, do some logical if logics, calculations, and date formatting. So what is JSON? I'm not going to go too deep into this, but just know that JSON is also called JavaScript Object Notation. It's a standard text-based format for storing and exchanging data. It's human readable. The machine can parse it. It's not dependent on JSON. It's language independent, meaning you can use it with any type of code, Python, JSON, you name it, JavaScript, any code, you can use JSON. It's compact, so the format is easy to parse and it doesn't take a lot of space. JSON is often used in web applications to transfer data between a server and a web page. But it's also used in the NoSQL databases like MongoDB or Cassandra, even DynamoDB in AWS, that it also uses JSON layout. And it's also used for API calls and data analysis. Okay, what is JSON made of? It contains key value pairs. The keys are always enclosed in quotation marks. And the values they do not need to be enclosed in quotations because the quotation means that it's a string, but you can also have numbers, you can have arrays, you can have objects, literal true and false values, and so on and so forth. So the keys are always enclosed in quotes. The values don't have to be quotes. They're separated by colon, and that's called a key value pair. So you will have the key, like first name, colon, and the value will be my name, William. The objects in a collection are defined by the braces, and usually the object will have the key value, and it will have several objects inside. The arrays are defined by brackets. Make sure that you understand the difference between braces and brackets, and you can have multiple values separated by commas within the arrays like a normal array would. And I'll show you the data farther down, and you'll be able to identify what I'm talking about. Okay, now, what is JSONata? JSONata basically is a lightweight query and transformation language for JSON. It enables you to be able to read JSON format and then extract values from the JSON format. So it's very lightweight and it's easy to do the mapping from one JSON format to another JSON format, or even if you just want to extract the value. In AWS, this is our first project using JSONata, and we're going to be talking JSONata as it relates to the AWS B2B data interchange. We will cover again the basic transformation. We will execute local queries to extract data, create basic calculations, and also format the data to match the expected pattern. In future videos, we can cover more advanced techniques, or if you have some complex questions that you want to see how to fix it, you can leave the questions in the comment section, and I'll be happy to address it. So if you want to find more information on how to use JSONata, you can go to JSONata.org, or it has that website also has a a coding section where you can test it out, how it will work, and you can even paste your code, and you'll see in the demonstration. And for that, you can go to try.jsonata.org. And last but not least, the documentation is very robust and very clear, and it has a lot of examples, and you can find that at docs.jsonata.org/overview.html. Okay, without further ado, thank you very much for watching our video, and let's get started. All right, welcome to the following part about the JSONata mapping. We're going to be displaying and showing you what the JSON data will look like. So here we have a company PO purchase order. This is an A50 EDI, an EDI A50X12, the American version, version 4010. So when I say American, it's because it's the X12 version, the standard American purchase order, not the Edifact, which is for the European customer. But here we have a sample PO with sender ID, my company 123. Obviously, this whole thing is made up company. It's not real data, no real company. And we have the purchase order information. Here's the PO number and PO date, the internal company number, and ship date. And here's the ship to location and the bill to location, and the item and total count is 1, and the total amount is $500 or 500. In this case, it's dollars, but the company I set up under euros, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next section when we go into Soho. So in AWS B2BI, B2B data interchange, the purchase order comes in as a regular X12, and by default in B2B data interchange in the AWS service, you can decide if you want it to be the canonical format in JSON or XML. In my case, I requested JSON. So this is the output that the B2B data interchange converts the X12 EDI data into in order to be parsed by the JSONata mapper. So here we have the key of interchange with the brackets, which means it's an array. And if you notice, is we need to understand who's the parent and who's the child. Here's the key value pair. This is the key, and this is the value. And if you know EDI, you understand what the ISS segment and the GS segment and the ST and the BG, all these things are. This is the, I'm not going to explain all this in detail, but the important thing to understand here is in JSON, you will have the parent level, the structure, and you need to understand what is how this structure looks, and the best way to look at it is if you shrink it. So interchange is the root level, and then functional group is a child of interchange, and transaction is a child of functional group. Again, if we do this, we can see that. And then segments, plural, is a child of transactions. And then you have BEG, REF, DTM, so on and so forth. But then here's another child, the N4. N4 loop has an ST, and there's two N4 loops. There's one and there's two. Okay, and then there's the PO1 800 loop, and that's another child. So it's important to know who's the child and who's the parent, because if you're going to go through this data, you need to know the hierarchical level in order to pull the information. So Again, this is the transformation, the canonical layout of the EDI file into a JSON layout. And then if you go, so here is the output that we're going to be generated. This is a mock sales order that I was able to load into Soho successfully by utilizing Postman, and I created another video on how I did that. But this is the simple output of a sales order. I call it the EDI X12A50 to Soho sales order using JSONata. So the way that this will work, like here's the customer ID, and this is the actual customer ID in Soho for the company, um, for this company sender one. So technically, when we tell a customer, okay, I need you to send me this reference IA, this is the vendor ID. So this number is the same number that is here. So in order to pull it using JSONata, I need to do something like this. Interchanges dot functional groups dot transaction dot segment dot RFO2. So basically, I'm going through this process, interchanges into the functional groups, into the transaction, into the segment, and then I'm pulling the REFO2. Okay, and we're gonna see this in play when we pull the browser in order to do a sample mapping. But this is what it looks like to pull the data from the source, the canonical JSON EDI file to the transformation. So let me show you what that looks like in the browser itself. Okay, so here, when we go to try.jsonata.org, you'll be able to get this sample invoice that they attach here. And here is the code. On this window, on the left, is the source data, and the right on the top part will be the target data and the coding that you want to put, and in the bottom it give you in the bottom right it will give you the result. In this case, it's doing a sum of all the prices times the quantity, give you a total $336.36. So just to show you real quick, if I remove the sum and I just do give me account.order.product.price times quantity, it gives me all of the prices times the quantity of all the items. And again, it's a hierarchical level. Here is account, and it is case sensitive, so you got to be careful with that. And then the child of account is order, and the child of order is product. And here we have a bracket, which indicates that you can have multiple products. Okay, here's price times and the quantity. So 34.45 times 2 is equal to 68.90. So here's the 68.90 that correspond to that first item. So if I want to do an if statement, I can take this SKU, for example, and go here to product, and then I do bracket, and I put the word SKU. Again, be careful, that is case sensitive, so it's all uppercase SKU equals quote, and I put the value in quotes, and here give me the price times quantity only for the SKU that is it finished with 4608. If I take the next SKU and replace it, here we have is 2167. So you get the point. Key information here is make sure you don't put a period after the product and the bracket, in between the product and the bracket or the last level. Make sure that the key is not in quotes, because it'll give you an error. Let me give you an example. If you put SKU in quotes, it will say no match. Also make sure that is the right case, because if you put SKU, it also said no match. It has to be case sensitive, so uppercase. And then the period at the end of the bracket, and then the formula. Now, if I just put price rather than price times quantity, there is 2167. So you get the point. It's simple coding, nothing too complicated. So we're gonna switch to the exercise that we're doing. Here is the ISA and the GS, the purchase order that I created manually. Here's sender one, my company 123, so on and so forth. This is the template. I haven't introduced any code, so it basically repeats the same information that is in the top. It repeats it in the bottom because there's no code. So this is the example that I was talking about, customer ID. So if I remove customer ID, and let me pull up Notepad, um, and then I take this information, and then I come back to the customer ID and I paste that. Notice that now the customer ID is equal to this 5207, which is the same as this right here. Now the problem is, if we have multiple ref segments, it's gonna give me several. Let me show you that. If I remove this, now here's customer ID, and we have the whole information about all this, anything below segments, because I didn't put any criteria. So what I need to do is put a criteria right here. So it says ref02, but I want to do where ref underscore 01 equals to IA. Close the bracket, put the period, and oh, I need to put close the quote. Okay, now it gave me the 52057, but now I'm making sure that if I have a ref um, ZZ, let's say, now it doesn't put anything because it doesn't match the criteria. So I hope that makes sense. Trying to show how the if statement works. So now I put it back to IA, and now we have a customer ID. Okay. Currency. Uh, um, Usually for Soho, you get a currency code. Let me show you in the notepad. We have in the notepad we have the currency ID as this. I'm just gonna copy because I don't have a currency on this particular um, sample data. So I'm just gonna put currency ID that. Now on the date, let's say this, I believe this is, I'm gonna use the PO date. So notice the format later will format it, but it's 2024-11-20. I'm just gonna go ahead and for now just get the BEG05. So I'm gonna do this. period BEG underscore 05. And now we have 2024 11 20. Obviously, I need to format it with the dashes and all that. We will do that in a minute. I'm gonna leave status draft, salesperson sure, it doesn't matter, as attachment false. Reference number, this is the PO number. So what I'm gonna do here is copy this guy, and I'm gonna make sure, and I'm gonna change it to BEG03. And here it is. So I'm gonna change this guy to 22. And here it is, it changed to 22 down here. So we're gonna continue the skew. We'll remove the skew. Now, because we went down to a deeper level now, is the PO1 loop. So I need to make sure that I change this to PO1 period, and I select PO107. Okay, something is wrong here. Expected. Okay. I think it was giving me an error because of the underscore. Um, again, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So if we just put PO1-800 underscore loop, it will give me an issue. So I have to put the quotes as you saw. Didn't know that, but we learn something new every day. All right. So here I'm capturing the PO107, which is CHK110, and there it is. It works fine. And then description, I'm gonna leave the description empty because I'm actually not getting description from the purchase order. So I will let Soho take care of that. Uh, then the price, I'm gonna take it from the PO104. So I'm gonna copy this guy. The quantity is going to be from the PO102, and all the item order, I'm going to take it from PO101, 50, rate 50, 50, quantity 10. And then the item total, I'm gonna do um, PO104 times PO1 underscore 02. Okay, is giving me an error because as you can see, the PO102 is actually reporting here as a um, as a character, not as a number. Okay, so the left side of the operator. Okay, so we need to convert these strings to numeric, but for now I manually make those changes. So here's 001, 50, 50, 50, quantity 10, a box 500, items subtotal 500. Uh, the item total did not report it. Okay, we need to look into that, what happened there. So we have encountered a couple of errors. All right, so I took a moment to figure out what the problem was, and the issue was that the PO102 was like this. So that causes an error, and the item total would disappear because the PO1 underscore 02 underscore 02 does not exist. So the moment that I remove that last 02, here's item total. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna fix the situation where the PO102 was in quotations. That makes it a string, and we can now multiply two strings. So the 50, the quantity and the price, I mean the quantity and the price, the 10 and the 50 was in quotes. So in order to fix that, we need to make this with a function called number, open parentheses, close parentheses, and the same thing with this one, dollar number, and open parentheses and close parentheses as two close parentheses. Okay, and now we have the item total down here at 500. So in order to convert something that it came as a string to convert it to a number, it needs to be using the dollar number, and it'll cast the numeric value of the string. So now we have um, the billing address ID and the shipping address ID. So again, we only care about this. This is the ship to location, and this is the bill to location. For the bill to, we need to do interchange, groups, transactions, segments. Oh, so we have to come down here and then do, it doesn't like the underscore, so we need to put it with the quotes. And then period. And then we're gonna say NN 104. So if you've been following along, you would know that this should give me the two NN104s, the one for the ship to and the one for the build to. So here it is, billing address ID, give me the two of them. So again, the way to separate this, it will be to do the bracket and say NN101 equals build to. And then now, should just have one. There you go, the 60. Here it is. So we need to do the same thing for the ship to. And then the NN101 is ST. So here we have the billing ID and the ship to ID. And again, we're taking it from the data. So technically, we have all the information required to load, to convert a regular PO from the JSON canonical file to the Soho XML file. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this map. Oh, we also need to fix the dates, right? So this is actually, this is supposed to be the ship to date. So I'm going to tell it to give me the ship to is DTM02. So segment DTM02, but I want to make sure that I do whether DTM01 is equal to 010. And then that should be, there it is. The ship date is 11/30, November 30th, and the PO date is November 20th, so 10 days apart. So we need to do the formatting of the date, and we'll format this date, and then we should be ready to take this map. This actually is the map that will go into the AWS B2B data interchange mapping format in the um, AWS panel, and I will show you that in the next video. So let me show you how to format the date, and we can save this map. In the EDI data, we receive the data and the date on this format, which is century, month, date. What Soho is expecting is the dashes in between. So I was looking into the formula on how to do that, and in JSONata, they have this formula said 2 mils, and basically it takes the date that we pass and converts the date in from milliseconds to milliseconds from the Unix epoch of January 1st, 1970, and then from there we can convert it back to from mils to whatever format we want. And the example that they have here is like this. And that works. I mean, we can take this and put it in the test, and there it is. It does work. If we remove this section right here, we see that it gives us the milliseconds, and then from the milliseconds, we convert it back to date. And we can, if we passing the date in this format, uh, we also need to make sure that we change it here. And there it is. And the same thing. So if you have the year first, you can modify this, how the date is being passed, and converts it to whatever you tell it to pass it back. So if you want to change it to year and then date, date, month, and year, there it is. We just flip it. So that works. But because we're talking about um, basically just putting dashes to the date, and this is already being passed as a string. As we can see, the BEG05 is being passed as a string. All we need to do is insert the dashes. So I figure the best way to do it is using the substring function, and then basically I take the year, and then I concatenate a dash, and then I take the month, and I put a dash, and then at the end I put the date, and this is the result, the 2024-11-20. So basically, this function, all we need to do is pass on the BEG, where's the date right here. So on the BEG05, all I need to do is this. And then bring back the browser. And here's the date. 2024-11-20. And then we have the same thing with the ship date, and we can do the same thing on the ship date, and then we will put the dashes. So we have learned how to do the straight data mapping, how to do conditional statements to make sure we're selecting the right data out of the segments, and not just passing any data. We just want to make sure that we are passing the right data based on a basic if statement, a select statement, and then how to convert um, string to numeric to make calculations, how to make simple calculations, and how to do date formatting. So right now, this is the desired output that we want out of AWS B2B data interchange. We will copy this and we'll put it into the B2B data interchange mapping, and we will run this purchase order straight through, and we should get this JSON output for the Soho sales order. In the next videos, we will be showing you how we can execute the B2B data interchange mapping conversion, and how to set all that up. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions regarding JSONata or JSON data, or if you want to see how to do something more complex, just leave a message in the comments and let us know what you want to see, and we will try to put another video together executing some of your requests. Thank you very much. I hope this helped. Remember to like and subscribe, and let us know how we can help you.